All right, guys, this video we are going to go ahead and look at now dividing rationals. And this is just like what you guys watched in multiplying rationals, but there's just one extra step we have, okay? Otherwise, our steps are exactly the same as what we did before. And so go ahead, pause this video and copy down what you see, and then we'll go ahead and get going here. So looking at these problems here, I first want to look up at this top part here where I wrote some notes for us. It says, before you start, you must flip. Okay, this is super important and it only applies to when you are dividing. Okay, it only applies to division. So what I'm talking about here is before you start solving the problem, you must flip your second fraction. Okay, what that does is then changes it to multiplication, okay, which is what we just did in our last video. So I have an example here. You guys learned this probably way back in middle school, maybe even elementary school. When we have fractions like this, if I want to do 1/2 divided by 3/4, okay, what I would actually do is I would do 1/2, I'm going to change this to multiplication, but I need to flip this second fraction, top to bottom. So now I'm going to multiply by 4/3. Okay, so again, what I did, I changed from division to multiplication, and I did that by taking my second fraction and flipping it. So now I can go ahead, 1 times 4 is 4, divided by 2 times 3, which is 6, which I could then reduce to 2/3. So this is exactly what you guys have been doing, and you just don't use this skill a lot. So I wanted to refresh your brain. When dividing rationals, we must flip our second fraction. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this first example here. Okay, go ahead and scooch this up. So again, same steps as before, but now I have this first one where I have to flip my second fraction. So what I'm essentially going to do is rewrite this whole problem, but I'm going to take this second fraction and I'm going to flip it. Okay, so the first one stays exactly the same. I've got x squared plus 3x minus 28, all divided by 2x to the third. Now I'm going to be multiplying, so this is just like the last video we did, and I'm going to flip this top to bottom. So x minus 3 is now up top over x squared minus 7x plus 12. Okay, so step 1 done. I flipped it, so now it's a multiplication problem just like what we did in our last video. So now I can go through my steps of simplifying. Again, step by step. So if I look at this top left part, do I have a GCF? Nope. Can I factor it? Yes. So this top left part, I can factor it of what multiplies to get me negative 28 and adds to get me a positive 3. And so when I go to factor this one, I would want to use a positive 7 and a negative 4. So when I go ahead and rewrite this top part, I would get x plus 7 times x minus 4. Okay, and the denominator here, this is not a GCF and this is not something we're going to factor. We're actually going to expand this. That's what my note should say here. That should say expand. Sorry about that. We want to expand this out. So 2x to the third is the same thing as having 3 x's there. All right, I want to multiply, okay, x minus 3, there's no GCF here, there's no x squared, so I'm not going to factor this. I just need to leave x minus 3 alone, and I'm going to put that in our groups because we're used to seeing it that way. And then x squared minus 7x plus 12, not a GCF, but I am going to factor this one. So I'm going to look at what multiplies to get me 12 and adds to get me negative 7. This one's a little bit tricky because you're multiplying to get a positive, but adding to get a negative. So both of our numbers here need to be negative, and that would be negative 4 and negative 3. So in the bottom here, I can go ahead and rewrite this as x minus 4, x minus 3. All right, now remember, because this is a multiplication problem, we can look at this as one ginormous fraction. Just like what we did here. When we multiplied this, we looked at it essentially as one fraction. So let's go ahead and look at this as one fraction and move on to our next step. Can we cancel anything top to bottom? All right, what's the same on top and on the bottom? Well, I have x minus 4s I can cancel, and I have x minus 3s I can cancel. Now here's a question for you. Can I cancel these x's? Hopefully you're thinking to yourself, no, I cannot. And the reason is because x plus 7 is in this group. I cannot cancel them because that x is added with that 7. So I can't simplify anything else here. So what I'm left with, up top, I have x plus 7. And in the denominator, I have 2, and then I can go ahead and put these back together. X to the third. And this would be my final answer. Okay, so guys, this is exactly what we just did in the last video, except for we just have one extra step here. I have to take my second fraction and I have to flip it. We're going to go ahead and look at 2 more examples here, so maybe pause the video and write these down. All right, let's go ahead and look at these 2. So again, these are both division problems. So right away, I know I need to flip my second fraction. This is where a lot of people make mistakes on division because they forget this first step. And then they get to the simplifying part and they're like, wait, nothing works. You have to make sure you flip your fractions here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this. We've got 7x to the third over x squared plus x minus 30, and now I'm multiplying. X squared minus 36 goes up top, and x squared minus 6x goes in the bottom. All right, go through it section by section. 7x to the third, I can go ahead and rewrite this as 7 with 3 x's, right? I'm expanding that out. And the denominator, this is something we are going to factor. So I'm looking at what multiplies to get me negative 30. That will add to get me 1. So this would be positive 6 and negative 5. So in my denominator, I will have x plus 6, x minus 5. And again, we're multiplying by, I can go over here. All right, x squared minus 36, this is a factor. I'm kind of scrunched on space here. But what multiplies to get you negative 36, that will add to get you 0. That missing term is in the middle there. That term in the middle is missing. All right, so for this, I'm going to use negative 6 and positive 6. So I've got x minus 6 here and x plus 6. All right, let's take a look at the bottom here. GCF. Some of us might be thinking, well, wait, I need to factor x squared. But remember, in our steps, you need to check for a greatest common factor first before you try and factor something. So looking down at this bottom problem, x squared minus 6x, I do have a GCF here of an x. They both share an x in common. So when I take that out, I had 2 x's. I took one on the outside, so I'm left with an x there. Minus 6, and then that 1 x there went out on the outside. All right, remember this is all 1, so I can go ahead and cancel here. X minus 6's can cancel. X plus 6's can cancel. And hopefully you're seeing something. We've got some leftover pieces here. I've got this 7 with 3 x's, and I've got this x and this x minus 5. These are my leftover pieces. So take a look at that. Is there anything that's the same on top and on bottom that we could continue to cancel? And hopefully you're seeing I could cancel these x's right here. And you're like, wait, you just told me I can't cancel the x's. These x's are on the outside. They are not in parentheses adding and subtracting with a number. So I can cancel these. All right, look at our final answer here. We've got 7 x squared over x minus 5. All right, let's go ahead and look at our last problem here. Okay, again, just going through it, and we want to simplify this following our steps. So again, first step with division is to flip. Okay, your practice problems are all mixed up, so you really have to pay attention to your sign. Okay, so when I rewrite this, I get 6x plus 48 over x squared minus 9x. Now I'm going to switch it to multiplication of x squared minus 81 over x squared plus 17x plus 72. All right, let's go ahead and work through this here. So top left, I have a greatest common factor. That's how I'm going to simplify this one. And my GCF here is 6. Go ahead, divide to figure out what's left over. 6 divided by 6 gets me x. And 48 divided by 6 will get me 8. All right, and my denominator, first double check, do I have a GCF? Don't get confused with factoring right away because you have an x squared. You first want to check to see if you have a GCF, and I do here. My GCF is x, and I'd be left over with x minus 9. All right, I'm multiplying over here. First check, do I have a GCF? No. So can I factor this one? Yes. This one you can factor. So what multiplies to get you negative 81, that will add to get you 0. Okay, that's what we're factoring here. And so my numbers for that would be negative 9 and positive 9. In the denominator, we're looking at what multiplies to get us 72 and adds to get us 17. This one we're factoring. So looking at those numbers, that would be 9 and 8. So x plus 9, x plus 8. All right, let's go ahead and put this all together and simplify here. So x plus 8 can cancel. X plus 9s can cancel, and x minus 9s can cancel. So the only thing left over here is 6 over x. And that would be my final answer. All right, guys, so again, let's take a look back at our steps here. When you have a division problem, the only difference is you have to flip your second fraction and rewrite it first. Then it becomes a multiplication problem just like what we did in the last video, and you solve it exactly the same by simplifying and then canceling. You must go through your simplification steps in this order: GCF, then factoring, then expanding. Okay, that's what you want to go through your checklist as. All right, guys, I am going to have a live lesson on Thursday, so if you have any questions, feel free to join me then, and I'll be going through some more problems. All right, guys, use these notes for your practice problems. Pay attention to your signs. The practice problems are all mixed up, so you really got to know when am I multiplying and when am I dividing. All right, guys, let me know if you have any questions.